What actually is happening in Afghanistan? Who are Taliban? Why were people of Afghanistan terrified of Taliban? How is America involved in this war? In this episode, we are going to look at everything about the crisis of Afghanistan. For this we need to go back to 1978, when Afghanistan was conquered by the Soviet Union. After the Soviet Union occupied the country, the Islamic fighters called Mujahideen engaged in war with the Soviet forces. Many Muslims from other countries assisted the various Mujahideen groups in Afghanistan. Mujahideen forces caused serious casualties to the Soviet forces and made the war very costly for the Soviet Union. Even the Taliban founder, Mullah Muhammad Omar, was one of the Mujahideen rebel fighter at the time of war. In April 1992, after the Soviet Union was defeated by Mujahideen rebels, with the help of Pakistan ISI and US CIA, the political parties in the country agreed on a peace and power sharing agreement, called the Peshawar Accord, which created the Islamic State of Afghanistan. Although some political parties didn't recognize the agreement, and started fighting back for the power, led to the Afghan civil war in the country. In September 1994, from the eastern and southern Afghanistan, from a place called Kandahar, the founder of Taliban, Mullah Muhammad Omar, was unhappy that the Islamic law has not been installed in the country after the communist rule, and wanted to get rid of the warlords and criminals who were raging for power in the country, and started a religious movement with 50 students, called Taliban. Mean students who were educated in traditional Islamic schools of Pakistan. Within months, the 50 students were joined by the refugees from Afghan, who flew to Pakistan when the war was taking place and became 15,000, and even took place in Pakistan itself, who are educated students of religious schools in Pakistan. It is said to be that Pakistan has heavily supported the Taliban, hoping for a new rule which might be favorable to Pakistan, and reports suggest that Taliban even received financial support from Pakistan in 1995 and 1996 too. Even some reports suggest that, between 1994 and 1999, an estimated 80,000 to 100,000 Pakistanis were trained and fought in Afghanistan on the side of Taliban. Okay, we will go back to 1994 again. On 3rd of November 1994, the Taliban made a surprise attack on Kandahar and conquered the whole city. By the end of January 4, 1995, Taliban controlled over 12 places in the Afghan provinces. After numerous attacks on Kabul, the capital of Afghanistan, on 27th of September 1996, Taliban conquered and established Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan. When Taliban took power in 1996, 20 years of continuous warfare had devastated Afghanistan's infrastructure and economy. Basic needs like water, food, housing, and others were short in supply. Afghanistan infant mortality rate was also the highest in the world, at the time of Taliban rule. A full quarter of all children died before they reached their 5th birthday, a rate several times higher than most other developing countries. With over 1 million deaths throughout the years of war, the number of families headed by widows had reached 98,000 by 1998. The civil war and its never-ending refugee stream continued throughout the Taliban's reign. The people of the country used to depend on the international charitable and development organizations like NGOs for supply of food, employment, reconstruction, and others. Half of the people in the country were depending on NGOs for even drinking water, but the Taliban provoked its highly suspicions towards the help this NGOs offered. Even in July 1998, the NGOs were forcefully closed by the Taliban, as they didn't obey the order. The Taliban explained this situation as, "We Muslims believe in God, the Almighty, will feed everybody one way or another." And the harsh rules and regulations for women. This was widespread throughout the world, as brutal repression of women. The women were not allowed to be educated, and not allowed to work anywhere, and only should be wearing a burqa, a traditional dress covering the entire body, except from a small slit out to sea, and women leaving their house should be accompanied by a male person of the family. And female employment was restricted to the medical sector, where male medical personnel were prohibited from treating women and girls. Restrictions became especially severe after the Taliban took control of the capital, and those who disobeyed were brutally beaten publicly. In one instance, a young woman named Sahela was charged with adultery, after walking with a man who was not her relative, and was publicly beaten in Ghazi Stadium, by hitting her with 100 lashes. And even reports suggest that Taliban provided a safe haven to Osama bin Laden, the leader of al-Qaeda terrorists, and arranged a base for him in Afghanistan in 1996, and several reports suggest that several Taliban and al-Qaeda commanders ran a network of human trafficking, abducting ethnic minority women, and selling them into sex slavery in Afghanistan and Pakistan. But some women preferred to commit suicide over slavery, by killing themselves. During one Taliban al-Qaeda offensive in 1999, in the Shamali Plains alone, more than 600 women were kidnapped as of officials report. I think by now, we got to know why the people are terrified by the rule of Taliban in the country. By 1998, the Taliban controlled over 90% of Afghanistan, and 10% was under the control of Ahmad Shah Massoud, who was leader of the anti-Taliban. In 2001, 400,000 to 1 million Afghans fled from the Taliban region to the area of Massoud. And even he was called the pole of liberty in Afghanistan by the President of European Parliament. Even National Geographic concluded, in its documentary Inside the Taliban, the only thing standing in the way of future Taliban massacres is Ahmad Shah Massoud. In early 2001, Massoud, with ethnic leaders of Afghanistan, addressed European Parliament in Brussels to provide help for the people of Afghanistan. In the meeting, he also stated that the Taliban are not a force to be considered invincible. They are distanced from the people now. They are weaker than in the past. There is only the assistance given by Pakistan, Osama bin Laden, and other extremist groups that keep the Taliban on their feet. With a halt to that assistance, it is extremely difficult for them to survive. On this visit to Europe, he also warned that his intelligence had gathered information about a large-scale attack on U.S. soil is about to happen in the near future. On 9 September 2001, Massoud was assassinated by two Arabs by a suicide attack. After 2 days to the assassination of Massoud, on September 11, 2001, the World Trade Center and Pentagon in the United States of America was attacked by 4 planes, which were hijacked by 19 terrorists. The impact of the attack was huge, as the 110-story tower collapsed in the span of 1 hour. It is said to be one of the greatest attacks in the world. There were nearly 3,000 deaths and 6,000 injured in this attack. In response to this, the U.S. government, which was under the leadership of President George Walker Bush, gave an immediate order on September 20, 2001, to the Taliban without any further discussion, to hand over all the leaders of al-Qaeda terrorists, including Osama bin Laden, and to close all the terrorist camps, and even to give full access to the training camps of terrorists, for further inspection. But the Taliban rejected it, and said Osama bin Laden was a free man without any criminal record. Not even a month to the 9/11 attacks, on October 7, 2001, the U.S. government with British support began bombing the Taliban forces and on the camps of terrorists in Afghanistan. By the end of November 2001, the Taliban and terrorist leaders flee away from the country, including Osama bin Laden, abandoning all the terrorist camps. On December 5, with the help of U.S. forces and all the political leaders, Afghanistan has started an interim government, installs Hamid Karzai, who was a Mujahideen fighter in the Soviet-Afghan War, and an anti-Taliban leader. On April 17, 2002, the President of the United States, George W. Bush, calls for the reconstruction of Afghanistan. By the end of January 2004, Afghanistan government signed a new constitution for the country, which led to national elections for the first time in Afghanistan. In October 29, 2004, Osama bin Laden came to the limelight and releases a videotaped message 3 weeks after the presidential election, taunts Bush administration, and takes responsibility for the attacks of 9/11. On November 4, 2008, Barack Obama won the presidential elections in the United States, and commits to Afghanistan, and said Afghanistan is the more important United States front against the terrorist forces. On May 1, 2011, Barack Obama, the President of the United States, was successful to kill Osama bin Laden, the leader of al-Qaeda terrorists, who was in Pakistan and the prime target for the war in Afghanistan. After the death of the prime target, on June 22, 2011, Obama announces a plan to withdraw the U.S. troops, beginning by the end of 2014 from Afghanistan. As the withdrawal of U.S. troops in 2014, the Taliban was regaining power. As of July 2016, Taliban controls 20% of the Afghanistan. By this time, on January 20, 2017, Donald Trump became the new President of the United States. By the end of 2019, the United States and Taliban peace talks progress. In 2020, the U.S. and the Taliban signed a deal to peace, to stop the ongoing war for 2 decades. By the end of September 12, 2020, the Taliban and Afghan government peace talks began, and we're talking to bring peace to Afghanistan, from ongoing war from 2 decades, after the withdrawal of U.S. troops. On April 14, 2021, as the new President of the United States, Joe Biden, decides to complete withdrawal of U.S. troops by 9/11, saying it's time to end the America's longest war. Within the span of 3 months to withdrawal of the U.S. troops, by August 8, 2021, Taliban conquered 60% of the Afghanistan. On August 15, 2021, the Taliban attacked on Kabul, the capital city, as the President of Afghanistan leaves the country, to facilitate a peaceful transition to a Taliban government. The takeover of the 2 main cities and seizing the borders lead to Taliban to gain power again on Afghanistan. As if now, the Vice President of Afghanistan, Amrullah Saleh, is fighting against Taliban, and said don't want Afghanistan to be Talibanistan. But in these wars between USA and the Taliban and Afghan government, the people of Afghanistan are suffering tremendously, and deaths of Afghan civilians is huge. This is the devastating situation of people in Afghanistan. For now, see you again in the next video. Please share and subscribe. And let me know how is the video, and what other videos you're interested in, and leave a comment below.